lot of people ask me about dual citizenship. You know, I'm a citizen of Canada. I had a really prominent movie producer that came to me, and he said, well, I'm from Canada, and I have this question for you. And I said, the answer is yes. And he said, but you didn't even didn't even let me ask the question. And I said, you're going to ask, do I get to keep my Canadian citizenship if I become a U.S. citizen? And he was really taken aback. He said, how did you know that? I said, well, my son's a Canadian, and I've brought in maybe a couple thousand Canadians. That's always the first question from a Canadian. But you may not be a Canadian, so you have to go to our website and look it up. The U.S. doesn't care, but your country may have a rule that if you become an American citizen, you would lose your citizenship in a foreign country. And in that case, if that really means enough to you, you may just want to stay here as a green card holder. Another thing, under benefits, remember though, if you are an American citizen, you cannot be deported. If you're a green card holder, you can be deported for things you did as a teenager or things you might do in the future, so always keep that in mind. Also, what's the procedure for all of this? Well, there's a form, N for naturalization -400. And when I worked for the Immigration Service, that form was a 4-page form, including the instructions, and cost 15 bucks. Now, I hope you're sitting down for this, but now it costs over $700 to do this, and it's 18 pages. It's an 11-page form plus 7 pages of instructions. So there's a song by English singers saying, immigration form big enough to keep me warm. I know he was naturalized in LA a few years ago. He must have been talking about this form. How about waiting times? I mean, how long does this process take? Typically between 6 months and a year, but it really depends on the city that you're living in. And from time to time, we do updates on our website showing each city and how long it takes. But you cannot take these waiting times as gospel, because if you apply for citizenship, you'll also be doing fingerprints. Those will be sent to the FBI and to other government agencies, and they'll do security checks on you. And you might have a totally clean record, so you're saying, that's not going to be a problem for me. But if you have a common name, not Shusterman, but if your name is Smith or Hernandez or Patel or Yin or something like that, there may be somebody with a criminal record with your same last name, and they're doing name checks to see, is it you or is it this other person? So that may delay the whole process. What if you're interviewed at the Immigration Service and months go by and you don't hear anything at all? Do you have any recourse? And fortunately, they changed the immigration law a few years ago to say that they only have 120 days to make a decision. And if they don't make a decision in 120 days, you can go into federal court and ask the federal court judge to grant your citizenship application, or to order the immigration system to take, we usually ask for 60 or maybe even 30 days to make a decision on your application. But what if your application is denied? Do you have any rights then? Absolutely you do. You can appeal it, and it is an administrative appeal to a supervisory immigration examiner. But ultimately, naturalization, unlike almost everything else in the immigration field, is a judicial process. So it's federal judges that get to decide whether you should be made a citizen, no matter what the immigration examiner says. So if you feel strongly enough about it, if immigration denies your application, we can always take your case to federal court as long as there's a good basis for doing so. How about filing the application? Where do you file the application? I mean, you used to file it at the local office. Now, if you live in the eastern United States, and you really have to look this up online, to certain states are considered east, certain states are considered west. Eastern United States, you file it in Dallas. Western United States, you file it in Phoenix. If you're in the military, or you were in the military, you and your spouse can file it in Lincoln, Nebraska. So those are the 3 places now. But these things change, so I'm making this video for you in January of 2009. If you're watching it in months or years later, do check online and make sure you're filing it in the right place. It should be on the instructions of the form. What are some of the problem areas? I mentioned some of them before, but I think if you fall within one of these problem areas, you definitely want to consult with an immigration attorney before you even decide whether to apply for naturalization. And if your case sounds like it's going to be a rough one, I would not go into that room myself. I would bring an experienced immigration attorney with me. Criminal convictions, even DUI convictions may sometimes be troublesome. Also, if you had, let's say you got your green card, I hope you didn't get your green card like this, but you heard that you could get it through your job, and you're a car mechanic, and Uncle Nate had a car repair shop. So he sponsored you, but when you got into the United States, you ended up getting another job and never worked for Uncle Nate one day in your life. Well, you're in big trouble, buddy. So you definitely want to talk to an immigration attorney. Maybe you don't even want to apply, but immigration may find out about this later and may deport you. So you may want to go to an attorney and devise a strategy for what's going to keep you in the United States for some sin that you committed 20, 30 years ago. Same thing with people who get their green card through marriage. The Immigration Service thinks that over 20% of the marriages may be phony marriages. So what if you can't prove that you ever lived with your wife? Or what if you did live with her or him, and you got this real messy divorce, and now your ex-spouse is going around telling everybody who wants to hear, he just married me to get the green card. Now, it might not be true, but I remember when I did interviews for the Immigration Service, seeing letters in the file where people wrote in and said, my ex-spouse, if they ever come up for naturalization, just remember, they only married me to get a green card. So, most people don't have those kind of problems. I think most people have fairly simple cases and, can probably do this themselves. But if you do have a problem area, don't try to save money. Go to an immigration attorney who's done this thousands and thousands of times. And good luck to you.